Good afternoon. As we have some very good news that this curriculum has been approved, when I made the PowerPoint 2 days back, this information was not there. But now the real implementation problem begins. So let me share these ideas, which Bodhamayanandaji is very keen to implement as a 20th year gift to humanity, human excellence in the 20th year of VIHE. We thought that we could call it as a comprehensive course in human excellence, which will have both values and skills. Next. I would like to make a short presentation on these areas. The first is Genesis, which we mentioned this morning. Then goals for the present course, the rationale of the course, the scope, the course objectives, areas to be covered, structure of the course, and the course outcome. Next. In the morning, we mentioned a global personality, Swami Ranganathananda. Very often, he was called the second Vivekananda. He had a seminal role in bringing out this institution. I remember once in the 80s, he was telling us that you are all the time saying morals, ethics, etc. Don't use those words anymore. Those are outdated. Swamiji was in his 70s and 80s. Old man, young thought. He said, use humanistic science. This is the word he used, humanistic science. So what we are trying to do in human excellence is to bring out this humanistic science, not anything other than a scientific process, as Sir mentioned again and again, a scientific transformative experiment. It has nothing to do with blind faith, it has nothing to do with affiliations, but it is something which is scientific. This, of course, one point of Genesis, I remember, this was in 2010 to 2012. This was a UGC major research project where, in addition to Osmania University Department of English, we put the name Vivekananda Institute of Human Excellence as the collaborating institution. All the experimentation of this project was carried out in the Vivekananda Institute with the help of Bodhamayanandaji and Gyanadanandaji. They were all the time present giving their inputs. And when this was presented to UGC, the experts were overwhelmed. They said, yes, this is the need of the day. It was called Pragmatics of Indian Philosophic Prose in English, a soft skills orientation. Soft skills had become a very current topical word in those days. Everybody wanted to learn soft skills. Today we are talking of them as employment skills, entrepreneur skills, life skills. All kinds of terms have come. The terminology is borrowed from the West, obviously, because we are using the Western language. But the skills have hidden in our ancient philosophy. Starting from the Vedas, as the chief guest mentioned, these are all skills of manuals of skills. Like we use a lab manual, these are manuals of life. We can use them, we can follow them. Then, of course, we had many training programs in different parts of India. And we found that this small module is really transformative. I would recommend that if you have the time and inclination, you can see a small module of this. I think there are 2 lectures given at IIT Kanpur, which uses Vivekananda's life and message to talk about communication, emotional intelligence, leadership. All these skills can be used. Using the ideas of Vivekananda, we can use all this. So this becomes the basis for us. Now the goals of the present course have been spelled out. Bodhamayanandaji spoke about it, Gyanadanandaji spoke about it. Our chief guest, Professor Sahasrabuddhe, gave a huge idea about what is the goal of real education today. Swami Vivekananda gives a lot of ideas about what is true education. And these form the goals. It is not information lying undigested, he says. Now, I'm using one skill which is called presentation skill. I'm not reading out any of those things because as an English teacher, I teach presentation. And if I read it, then I question your capacity to read. So I assume the audience is reading. Those who are very far away, if you want, I can share, VIHE can share the PowerPoint with all of you. You can think about it and get back to VIHE saying what is your take about it. So what we require is that we have to use the past, contemporize the past, bring it to the present, not as an information module, not as a knowledge module, but as a pragmatic, usable, self-transformative, self-motivational module. This is the main aim of this course, that as Sir said, that if a teacher becomes better, then only the student can become better. Without making ourselves acquire this, we cannot do anything to the student. So it is for all of us, not only teachers who are in service, not only administrators who are in service, but every human being till the last point of our lives. So we are trying to put, as Bhagavad Gita says, skill in action. This is the term which is loose translation of the term skill in action, which I have put here. Now, Bodhimanand-ji had a very relevant question here, and that is what made me think about the rationale. Why should we have a course like this? If somebody asks, are you trying to propagate? Are you trying to, remove the other aspects and wash people into coming into this stream of life? It is not like that. The Ramakrishna Vivekananda tradition has a great Catholicity. You will find that on Christmas Eve, the temple looks as bright and has as many celebrations as it has on Sri Ram Navami or Krishnashtami. So it is not something which is narrow. Vivekananda again and again in the parliament speaks about, we are celebrating the closing ceremony of 125 years also. He says again and again, openness. Unless we open ourselves, we are not going to get anything. And for him, religion is scientific. He says that there is no religion which can survive if it is unscientific. I'm speaking to a group of scientists, and here you have the experimenters par excellence. So the rationale for the course is that a person who gave identity to India is a person whom we are not able to incorporate into our lives. A person who gave us the tools for activating our energy, the tools are being rusted. So let us take the tools. If we forget Vivekananda or if we forget the name or the picture, it doesn't really matter. He says that his message is all there is. His voice is all there is. So let us remember the words. Let us implement this. That is what is the rationale. Then we have the scope, of course. We have all been mentioning that today all of you are very fortunate that the most intelligent students are going to you. But then we have also a negative here. I remember going to one college, very well-known college in Hyderabad, Technical College, for a course which Sir mentioned, that is the orientation. This was many years back. I said, how are your first-year students? They said, oh, madam, they are all from China. So I said, they are all from China? Oh, that's wonderful. I didn't know Chinese students are coming here. They said, no, China means Chaitanya and Narayana. I was shocked. So what are we getting? Intelligent machines. We are not getting human beings in our courses anymore. So Sir's initiative of that orientation is helping, because we are going all the time for these orientation to different colleges. Swamiji is going every day, I think, and he has no time. If he could have astral projection, I think you would find Bodhamayanandaji in 4 or 5 colleges on the same day. That is what is happening now. So there is a lot of demand for this. And our scope should be such that it is completely the responsibility of the learner. We should not say, we are going to tell you this. The entire course is learner-driven. It is a learner methodology. It is a learner's document. That is why I was requesting Swamiji that in our materials production team, we will have actual students. You know, the students who are studying, who can tell us what they would want. The alumnus, the best alumni of your colleges, who can tell us when they go to work in the companies, what is it that they require. This is the kind of thing which we want in the scope. Then course objectives, of course, we would like to use the past, the present, preparing for the future, starting from our own traditions, that is Indian tradition, to the global tradition, because Vivekananda, as we heard this morning, was first recognized outside our country. Nobody knew this young man till he made a name outside. Still we are like that. If we visit or get a degree from outside, we get a little more respect. But there is so much to do in our country. Why are we forgetting that? So let us use global traditions. You know, instead of using only parables of Ramakrishna, we can bring in parables of Christ. We can bring in Buddhism. Buddha was a great favorite of Vivekananda. We can bring in Jainism. We can bring in Shintoism. We can bring in Zoroastrianism. Bring a conglomeration, because that is what Ramakrishna stands for. He says, as many religions are there, are so many paths to the single goal. Therefore, that single goal is self-improvement. That is why we have that as the objective. And all this is not always relevant. We have to see what is relevant today. If you go and fill water from your tap outside, wearing wet clothes, and not filling the water which is coming into your house, that is only blind faith. Because the water is stored by GHMC in a tank. Obviously, we need to rationalize. We need to think what is possible to contemporize and use those things. These inputs also are wonderful. Small video, audio clips Bodhamayanandaji has on stories from the Puranas, Itihasas, etc. That is a great resource for this course like this. I told him one day on WhatsApp, I said, Maharaj, these you preserve because these can be used for this thing. Let us go to the next one. Now we have the areas which we would like to cover. This I will read quickly since it might not be visible to everybody. We have on one side values, 15 in number. We have on another side skills, 15 in number. We are going to integrate the values and skills and put them in a single format, maybe 30 hours or 60 hours, depending on the resources available. The values: discipline, empathy, commitment, positivity, efficiency, enthusiasm, reliability, dependability, thoughtfulness, sensitivity, courtesy, fairness, strength, courage, balance, determination, honesty, integrity. One thing which can be added to this is concentration. Of course, it comes in the self-confidence skill, but we can add it because Sir mentioned it, our chief guest mentioned it, concentration, very, very significant value, because today, the General Secretary Maharaj of the Order was telling me recently that there is only one problem today, and that is wasting of the energy of youth, which is just being scattered, directionless. So let us concentrate that energy into values. So we will add concentration to this. Then here skills we have: verbal and non-verbal communication, critical thinking, planning, goal setting, decision making, problem solving, negotiation, etiquette, emotional intelligence, time management, change management, conflict management, stress management, leadership, and team skills. In VIHE, a skills training has been carried out, 20 hours of it. We had all mainly engineers, doctors, MBAs for the course, and the feedback was such that in 20 hours, people who were swearing by Bill Gates and Steve Jobs started speaking about Indian characters for the first time. If they were asked to relate a skill to, Ramayana or Mahabharata, they said, we don't know. But at the end, they made beautiful PowerPoint presentations. Swamiji might remember that each of the 20 students made a PowerPoint which was fully one skill based on Indian wisdom, nothing which was non-Indian. Technology we have borrowed, but language we have borrowed. But let us not give up our own abilities. Then, of course, next one, please. The course structure. We thought the course could be divided into these aspects. One is a discussion on the ancient Indian foundational texts. All the foundational texts from the Bhagavad Gita to the Vedas, etc., starting from the Bhakti movement, all these are our foundational texts. Why we don't call them scriptures? Why we call them as foundational texts is because they alter our psyche. This is called as racial conditioning. A great psychologist, C.G. Jung, tells us, the racial unconscious. So we are born with this conditioning already. That is why Swamiji found potential for greatness in each human soul. This we have to do. Then examples we can take from the life and message. This is an actual package which we are doing for 2 days. Again, in VIHE it has been done. It has been done in many centers of Ramakrishna Math and Sharda Math. 2 days, about 50 participants, completely learner-oriented course where you are using only the examples of these 3 people's lives. We are not telling them that they are God. We are not saying Sarvadeva Devi Swarupaya. We are not doing that. We are saying, see, they also had problems of communication. They had good models of communication. They could listen to everybody. We are incapable of listening. They were great leaders, although people did not know them. They had great emotional intelligence. Today, people who have qualified from IITs are committing suicide because they have no emotional intelligence. So these are all the practical dimensions, and this is working. That will be a second part. Then current endeavors. Every human endeavor has a value. It has a skill. The value might be a negative value, but it has a positive lesson. We can learn so much from negatives. I was telling our VIHE volunteers the other day that, there is an advertisement on television where the grandmother eats the last piece of chocolate. I don't know if you've seen it. It's some chocolate advertisement. She says, I'm old, I'm going to die, therefore I will eat. Small children are there, the grown-up son and daughter-in-law are there. She doesn't give. This is not Indian culture. It is salesmanship. In Indian culture, our grandmothers would give it to us by saying, child, you eat. I don't want to eat. Selflessness. The child is selfless by saying, no, grandmother, you eat. Nobody, neither the child nor the grandmother, would say, I want. Where have we lost this message? So let us look at our own experiences. We mean the students' experiences, and let us try to make it into a real learning from them, their own experiences teaching them, where they are able to judge what is positive, what is imbibing, what is negative, what teaches another positive lesson. That is what movies are supposed to do. You show a lot of violence. Aristotle says you will have catharsis. But that doesn't happen. We see movies and we become more and more violent. We become very bad. We have, problems of gender sensitization we are teaching, and so on. So we have TV advertisements, social media. I was telling our young guests this morning, you know, blogging if we use for a course like this, you give, instead of giving an examination, you say each of you have a values blog. One day Swami Bodhamayanandaji sent me an article which says, Vivekananda is all wrong. Why is he saying mother of religions? Why is he saying this? Why is he saying that? He said, write a rejoinder. I wrote a rejoinder. Nobody published it. But today we have YouTube. Today we have blogging. Today we have our own websites. Each institution, each college, each individual student, if we engage actively, if we use our energy for this, I think it is not far away when society will see that which Vivekananda was visualizing. And that is what this course is supposed to do. The course is an initiation into this. We all have the process of initiation, the mantra. The mantra here is values and skills. You need them for your professional life. You need them for everything. These days, wherever I go, one topic which is given often, RUSA-sponsored workshops is continuing professional development, usually in teachers' workshops, always continuing professional development. As Sir rightly said, many people come for them only because of the long-term gain of promotion. But that is not really true sometimes. UGC is giving, for the last 4 years, a soft skills refresher course of 3 weeks. It wasn't there. When we were young, it wasn't there. You won't believe all the 40 or 60 participants come there. Osmania University often has Bandh. They would come from that jungle route and sit for the course. And they would perform. At the end of the course, you won't believe, each group performed one skill with an actual classroom experience. This was the role play which they did. It was so wonderful. This was the first course because I did a lot of research on this. I was asked to coordinate, and I found that the teachers have excellent energy, only it is covered by a veil of frustration. So our course, VIHE course, I hope, will be able to give this, and the next in the structure is the strategies and the values, how to cultivate the values personally, how to cultivate the skills personally, not with the help of a teacher, because Sri Ramakrishna says, your mind is your best teacher. But then what kind of mind do we have? We have like a brass pot. Every day we have to polish it. Otherwise it becomes black in color. So constant motivation, constant improvement, constant complete movement where excellence is here today. Tomorrow the parameter moves. We move further. Excellence moves further and we go on improving, no end to it. And then students' activities, assignments, etc. So the course outcomes is to make the student self-sufficient in inculcating these, not to depend on the teacher. Very often a student comes and says, what should I do with my life? We also mentor, mentoring is a very important part of teaching. But a good mentor is one who makes the student independent. Many teachers feel that dependence is good. We need to pass the baton. When I finished my career, I said, okay, pass the baton to somebody else. Now my role is not an active field role. We have the young man saying, I will not fight the battle. Then the mentor comes, doesn't fight the battle. The mentor says, these are the reasons why you should fight the battle. Then the young man gets energized. He says, yes, I should fight the battle. Our great Bhagavad Gita. If we worship it as a religious text, it is no use. If we look at it as a skills manual, then it has lots to tell us. It can tell everybody. It need not be a single denomination people are worshipping a single script as a scripture. That term scripture very often is off-putting for the young mind. He says, oh, we will do it at 60. Some young man came to Vivekananda and says, I want to read the Bhagavad Gita. Vivekananda says, go and play some football. In Bengal, football is very popular. Then that young man said, what is this? He's wearing gerua, he's wearing a Swami's dress. He doesn't teach Bhagavad Gita, he says play football. Because Swamiji says that unless you have the sportsman spirit, unless you have the physical strength, unless you have the mental balance, unless you have a selfless emotional content, you cannot learn Bhagavad Gita. That is what we call as capability of learning a text. Not, stratification by caste and creed. This one can't read the text. Those are all blind faiths. Today, all texts are available in English. How many of us are reading? Everybody swears by Freud, and Freud says all of us are mad. Who reads Mandukya Upanishad? Who reads psychology, which is thousands of years old, when Western psychology is only 200 years old? We don't do it. So these thoughts we need to inculcate in the mind of the child, and that is what the course outcome would be. That is where I ended the PowerPoint, because I didn't have much more to say. There is one more slide for course outcome, which, this is available. This PowerPoint is for everybody in the audience. All you have to do is to give your details and the PowerPoint will reach you. Please analyze it point by point, step by step. Give your feedback. Give what you can do for this project. Today we want to spend a little time in implementation also. The chairman of AICTE, who has the authority, has told us that it has to be done quickly. One of our skills is time management. Sir is a good time manager because he's finished on the dot of 12, which is very good. Therefore, we need to all put in, your one idea, your one thought might be a very important resource for the course. So how we implement it, who is the close group, the core group, who is the subsidiary group, these things we want. Please give all these inputs to VIHE. Maharaj is always in touch with me, although I keep traveling all over India all the time. Maharaj scolds me also sometimes by saying, where are you, when are you, and so on. But we will do. Maharaj feels that we should first have the decision makers to meet. I think, since Sir has given us directions, with his directions, if we meet a group, a small group of administrators in all the important places, the project can begin. Before that, please give your feedback. I sent it to somebody in Kolkata, who's also a professor, and I got from her 4 or 5 points, which I could not include because it came very late. But you can imagine, we can do pan-Indian or global survey. Is this workable? Shall we do it? How best shall we do it so that Vivekananda Institute of 20 years, Vivekananda Institute of Human Excellence for 20 years takes a new step towards ensuring excellence. Today there is a global crisis, our chief guest has mentioned. But global crisis has not made the human potential impure. It hasn't made, as I stand here talking to you from morning, I read one thing which is written there. Strength is in goodness, in purity. This goodness and purity are just veiled, they are just cloaked, they are just hidden. We have to dig a little and we find it. I think human excellence has the right tools to help us to dig. At all levels, Bodhamayanandaji will be able to coordinate, he will be able to pilot, he will be able to inspire and advise. We are all with him, and thank you very much.